Hi folks, this is Alan Watt. It is November the 23rd, 2006. Tonight it's about the culture creation industry, how ideas are downloaded into people's minds via fiction primarily, using high drama with emotion plus crisis. A situation in a movie and drama is a tremendous method of getting points across. It's almost like coupling an idea with the drama, and it's downloaded like a virus into your subconscious, and you're being programmed, and it's called predictive programming. The technique is ancient, and it's an old science. Plato, in his Republic, talks about the culture industry of his own day, and how it was essential not only for maintaining control over the people by the elite, but that they had to control everything that was given to the public. In other words, anything the public saw in drama on stage was authorized. In ancient Greece, traveling troops of players would come into the cities and do the rounds, and it was compulsory to attend. Everyone, even the slaves, had to attend at least one performance, because just like today, they had their agenda and their schedule and their upgrading of the system, and it was done primarily through fiction, because the old saying is monkey see, monkey do, and we emulate what we see, especially when it's done in a typical hero and heroine form. The male will project himself into the hero's part and identify with the hero character, and the female, at least in the old days before all the vast estrogen stuff in their food and so on, and inoculations, the females used to look towards the heroine. This is an ancient science. It's never ever given up, and actors are hereditary. The families in acting can go back probably hundreds, maybe some of them maybe thousands of years. Specialized sections of society, once more, and they marry each other and intermarry within even smaller ranks. What's more interesting is the producers, the magicians, you might say, who understand and have a full grasp of what is to be conveyed to the audience, what messages must be imprinted in them, in their minds. And he knows the techniques and how to do this perfectly. A perfect science. Now, what's interesting is that back in the 1960s, the Royal Institute of International Affairs and its American branch, Council on Foreign Relations, had one of their international meetings. They held it in England to decide which country, using its film industry, would create the international culture of the future. And this was in the newspapers back then. And it was, I think, 2 or 3 week long meeting. And it was ultimately agreed upon that Hollywood would be given the job to create the worldwide culture for the general public, for a global society. And it would also be coupled with the music industry, obviously, because they go hand in glove, as Plato said. Of human behavior is just a science. Each part of the direction that you want to go into is just the ability to understand the formulas involved and then what buttons to push and what sequence And if it's done in the right way, the right presentation, with the right propaganda, the public will react and do exactly as they're being programmed to do. It's worked in the past, it will work in the future. You just have to know the formula to introduce it. So Hollywood, the Holy Wood, of course, is a staff of the Magi, of the Magus, the Grand Magus in the occult. He waves a wand and everything is altered, changed. He casts a spell. And it's portrayed even in the cartoons with Mickey Mouse with his little wand, as he's dressed like the wizard. And little stars, 5-pointed stars, come from the wand. Many of the actors don't even understand it themselves, but the directors and producers certainly do. And some of the bigger ones are given the information and they're advised on how to get it across to the public. It's not that they have geniuses within Hollywood, per se. Hollywood has been an essential part of government, especially in the United States. There are books out on Hollywood's involvement with making war movies. They churned out I don't know how many war movies in World War II. And they had the full cooperation of the American military and the use of squadrons of tanks and ships and everything. Now, just jumping back a little bit into the 1500s, a period of tremendous change in Europe when the Rosicrucians were coming out into the open and recruiting heavily amongst what was then the up-and-coming middle-class youth, especially those involved in sciences. Science is very important to them. And a whole bunch of characters were around the court of Queen Elizabeth I, very important people in an important age. You can find John Dee there. Flood was there as well, and Flood is the man primarily responsible for the creation of the Globe Theatre, which was for Shakespearean plays. And nothing is by accident. And Robert Flood was also an alchemist. He was involved in architecture in the Hermetic tradition, which means that they wanted to unite heaven and earth. Always the same Hermetic tradition, the unification of both spirit and matter, the perfection of the world. In their eyes, of course, they knew and always did know that the understanding was for those in the know. For the profane and for the masses, they would simply be slaves. They had no qualms about differentiating themselves as a higher class of people, a specialized type, intellectual type. And Shakespeare, or Shakespeare, the priest of the father, was the magician who brought basically the English language into being as we know it. It's been upgraded since, but that was a major upgrade in that particular period. Before that, it was before that Chaucer had upgraded the last one with Canterbury Tales and other writings, and before that it was Old Norse and Saxon German that the people spoke. So a new language was created scientifically. It's fully encoded, of course. And it's a pity as well, because we've lost so much of it. We're losing so many words that eventually we won't be able to convey anything to anyone else with any precision. And that's called linguistic minimalism, a technique which has also been used on the public, because the children, for a long time, for generations, have been getting their vocabulary from the media and from the music, tremendously revealing. because there's always the revelation of the method for those who are wise enough to see and hear it. There's always an expose of how it's done and why it's done for those who can hear and see. It's built like the Globe Theatre, as I say, that they built for Shakespeare, the Shakespearean plays. It wasn't called the Globe for nothing. The Globe, the world. And many people got carried away with the drama and thought it was all real. And when that happens, the actors know they're convincing, it's working. When the audience forgets they're watching a fake, they're watching an act, then the actors are doing their job. It's getting across to the people that they're convinced, because now you've inserted into their minds the possibility that whatever you're showing them can be real or is real, and you've actually changed them. The alchemical change, you've changed them, you've cast a spell upon them. That's how it's done.